Hi, I'm Rick Rheins. I'm the senior rabbi at Temple Sinai in Denver, Colorado. And this week's Torah portion, Mikeitz, is the second of four parshiot that deal with the Joseph narrative. Joseph is now in the lowest place possible. He had been, of course, the beloved son of Jacob and his beloved Rachel. Rachel died as he was but a boy. Then he was the favorite son of Jacob, Israel, and that doting father unfortunately spoiled him. So as you can imagine, the rest of the siblings did not like Joseph at all. And then Joseph had this nagging habit of having these grandiose dreams, and worse, telling his brothers about them, so that they got angrier and angrier. It just so happened that one day their patience broke. Indeed, they sold Joseph to slavery, to Ishmaelites who took him down to Egypt, and he was a slave and an officer in Pharaoh's court named Potiphar. Well, what happened was Joseph, even in Potiphar's house, flourished. But even then, he was framed by Potiphar's wife. And so he was sent down into the dungeon in Egypt. And if the story didn't get worse, we would already be feeling so sorry for Joseph. But it gets worse because he's down in this dungeon and he tells the interpretation of the dreams of some of his fellow prisoners. And they promise to remember him to Pharaoh and to help him get out one day. And they forgot about him. So Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, forgotten by the fellow prisoners, framed, alone, down into Egypt, down into a dungeon, forgotten by all. But Joseph never gave up hope. Joseph kept this faith. It's for that our ancestors called him a tzaddik. He grew from that bratty young boy to a man who had sensitivity enough to consider the significance of dreams. So Joseph had this reputation of being a dream interpreter. And one day, Pharaoh had this crazy dream. Actually, it was two dreams in one. And that's where this week's Torah portion begins. Pharaoh has a dream where there were 7 cows that were fat and healthy. And then there were 7 other cows who were emaciated. And the emaciated cows swallowed up the 7 healthy cows, and Pharaoh woke up. And then there were 7 ears of corn that were healthy and strong, followed by 7 ears of corn that were withered. And yet that grain that was withered swallowed up the healthy grain. And Pharaoh woke up and he said, "This is a strange dream. I need an interpretation." So he called upon all of his interpreters, all of his wise men. None of them gave him a decent interpretation until one day the guy that had been in the dungeon, this cupbearer, said, "Pharaoh, you know, I remember there was this Hebrew lad. He can tell dreams." So Pharaoh said, let's get him, see what he has to offer. Joseph told Pharaoh's dreams, and he interpreted it with such wisdom that Pharaoh elevated Joseph to be second in command. What did Joseph do? Joseph said, "Your dreams of 7 healthy cows and 7 healthy ears of corn versus 7 emaciated cows and 7 withered ears of corn, they represent 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine." And if all Joseph did was give him that interpretation, then Pharaoh would have said, "You know what, Dayenu, what you did was good." But instead, Joseph then offered advice. He said, "Pharaoh, what you need to do is to collect all the grain you can and put them in storehouses during these 7 years of plenty, because there will be 7 years of famine. And this is how we will be able to survive this famine, by making provisions for the bad days to come." And Pharaoh at that point realized that Joseph had something to offer. You know, we're all having dreams right now. The psychologists are pointing out that we are having, perhaps because we have more time to dream, we have more time to sleep because of the pandemic, but our dreams are frequently more vivid and more memorable. And like Joseph, we're considering what those dreams are all about. What do they mean? Now, not every dream has significance. The Talmud said a long time ago, some of the dreams are just because you had a salami sandwich too late at night. And some of them are just nonsense or the power of suggestion. But sometimes they have a nugget or an inspiration. Sometimes it can cause us to make a pledge to reform, to regrow, to transform our lives for the better. Theodor Herzl, the founder of Zionism, said, if you will it, it is no dream. I.e., if you find something that's inspiring and you act on it, you bring it to fruition, then it's not just a fantasy, it's an inspiration. Each of us have the opportunity as we're about to go into the new year, 2021. We're waking up from this nightmare of the pandemic. We can take the dreams that we have, the dream of realizing that we need all the more than ever before our family, our friends, our community. That time is short, that opportunities that once presented themselves and then went away, we can't afford to allow those opportunities to go away. Life's too short. We're waking up from that dream, that nightmare, and realizing we have another chance to rebuild a life, to make a plan, just like Joseph did, not just considering the significance of the dream, but then acting on it, making a plan. I pray that in this new year, 2021, that each of us will have good dreams and that we'll find lessons from them, we'll act on them to build a better world. Shabbat Shalom.